Are You Really Going to Eat That? Podcast episode 139. Hey there, I'm your host Wendy Hill and I'm a naturopathic nutritional therapist and expert in female hormone health. I specialise in helping women gain confidence and understand their bodies, allowing them to shine. I'm a huge foodie and this podcast allows me to bring you an eclectic mixture of guests where food and health is our uniting passion. Hey, how are you doing? Welcome to this week's episode. I just want to say a huge thank you to those of you who are joining me again this week, and to anyone who is new, welcome. You are very welcome here. So this week we are talking a little bit about sugar, and I think this is a really emotive topic and something that I talk about to my clients quite a lot, both my one-to-one clients and in my fabulous and female membership, and when I do my transformation programs as well. It comes up a lot, and this month in the fabulous and female membership we are talking about sugar all month, and hence the sort of the thought behind this podcast episode. And it's one of those that I'll be honest and say that I used to say, I don't think sugar's addictive. I just think it's an excuse. And then the more I learn about nutrition and sugar, and I also remember watching years ago, and I have had a look and I can't find this, so sorry, I can't put a link in for you, but I did watch a TV show where they, I think it might have been someone like Michael Mosley, those kind of ones that he does, where they put sensors on the brain and then they got someone to eat sugar and they showed how it affected different areas of the brain. And prior to that, I have to be honest, I was a little bit skeptical about sugar addiction. And then after watching that, after talking to clients, and also being more aware of it and noticing myself. So I don't have a very sweet tooth. I'll be quite honest, I don't have a very sweet tooth. If you were to offer me a cake or a sausage roll or a slice of pizza, as you know, think about pizza, I would go for the savoury option. However, what I notice anecdotally myself is that if I have something sweet, I want sweet things more regularly. When I don't have them, I don't crave them. But I do think there is an element of once you've had some, you want a little bit more. So I am more on the fence on the is sugar addictive than I previously used to be. But I think first thing we need to do is talk about what is addiction. So officially, addiction is defined as a not having control over what you eat, what you were doing, what you were taking, or doing something to the point where it could be harmful to you. And that's kind of an official kind of description of addiction. And they would say, well, does sugar count for that? Is it causing you harm? Well, actually, yes, it does. Can you control it? Are you aware of it? Is it a persistent drug that you are taking despite it harmful consequences? Well, no, it isn't, is it? But it does have harmful consequences. I think the difference is in the power of the addiction. So I think it's a nice thing to have. It's something that brings us joy. So therefore we enjoy eating it, but are we addicted to it? And if you were to talk to a cocaine addict or a heroin addict, I'm sure they would say, it's not anywhere near on the same realms. Lots of people would, though, describe sugar to me in those terms of that they can't not have it. They know they shouldn't have it, but they can't not have it. That it's impossible to resist if they've got it in the house. And that, I think, is the key, is if it's available, it's kind of there. They say to me, it's talking to me, it's going to me, oh, there's another biscuit in the cupboard. Let me go and have another biscuit. Now, the reason that we enjoy sugar, or that sugar has that kind of control over us, and the same can be said for some salty and fatty foods as well. So things like crisps, which is why I think that I have that more of a savoury one. But there is that kind of combination. And it's a combination that our body knows is going to bring us, or traditionally, historically, would have been beneficial for us. So when we eat sugar, these brain things that I saw on this TV show was showing the kind of the brain reaction, and our brain releases a chemical hormone called dopamine when we eat sugar. Now, it releases dopamine in response to something that it believes is beneficial. So if we do something that is going to benefit our bodies, we release dopamine. And we often call this the addictive hormone. It gives us a little bit of a high, and it's our body's way of saying, do this again, it's good. And it should have a positive consequence. So for example, in our, sex releases dopamine. And the reason sex releases dopamine is because it is important to procreate for the future of the human race. So our body knows, our brain knows that this is a positive thing. So it releases dopamine. Now, it also releases dopamine in response to us eating sugar. Now, this is actually having a detrimental effect on our health because we are over-consuming sugar. Now, we used to think, I am from the age where we used to say that, it was bad to eat fat, that I did lots of those or was around when lots of those diets, low-fat diets, because fat made us fat. And actually what we are now realizing is it's sugar that is making us fat because we're storing it. The first thing I would say to you is, what can you do is don't start cutting out fruit. Fruit is not the problem. Fruit is a food, a whole food that is filled with wonderful macro, micro, and macronutrients that our body needs, filled with wonderful phytonutrients and phytochemicals that our body needs, filled with fiber. It has all these wonderful goodnesses. It's a great source of vitamin C that we need to consume every single day. So don't suddenly look at your diet and go, oh, well, I've been eating loads of fruit, so I should cut that out. Now, it might be about how you eat the fruit. So maybe combining it with a more balanced diet, combining it with protein and fat to lower the glucose absorption. But what's really a problem is added sugars. And that's where I want you to start thinking about it. Now, we all know about the adding sugar to our tea and coffee. I think we've all been indoctrinated to that. But do you really know how much added sugar there is in the food that you are consuming, in those ready-made processed snacks that you're consuming? Is there actually added sugar that you don't need? So remember, OS, anything containing OSE, glucose, sucrose, is added sugar, and any kind of syrup is an added sugar as well. So look at the labels. First thing is, look at the labels. Start to retrain your taste buds, because I do think we like sugary foods. So it is about retraining. So, things like bitter chocolate is sweet. Dark chocolate has got a sweet element to it, but we are so used to having those super, super sweet things, that we think that raspberries are sour and strawberries are sour. So it's about starting to re-educate your palate. I would say, please avoid artificial sweeteners. Having things that are artificially sweetened is not the answer. Firstly, you are tricking your brain into thinking that it's getting calories, that it's getting sugar, and it isn't. And there's a whole kind of arm of research now where we're looking into the effect that this is having on the body. And is it having a negative effect, even worse than having sugar, by having an artificial sweetener? And it's artificial at the end of the day. You don't want to be putting artificial stuff in your body. So avoid those artificial sweeteners. And if you're going to go for something that is sweet, go for something that's been naturally sweetened. So with fruit juice. So if you're having a yogurt and it's a fruit yogurt, it should have fruit in it, not sugar, but it should have fruit in it and no artificial sweeteners, because that's how it's meant to taste. Personally, I buy plain yogurt and put real fruit in it. But if you want to buy a fruity yogurt, just make sure it only has the fruit in it and yogurt, no artificial sweeteners. So that is it from me this week. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you understand a little bit more this week now around how sugar and what it does to you. I'd love to know your thoughts on this week's episode. So do kind of share the episode, do kind of DM me on the social media feeds. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, then please share the podcast. That is the best way that people can sort of find the podcast and we can get the word out to more and more people. Next week, it's another solo. So I'll be back next week. And thanks for listening, and I'll see you soon. Thank you for listening to the Are You Really Going to Eat That podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, why not share it with your family and friends? And the best way to help me get out to a wider audience would be to leave me a review. So if you just got a couple of minutes, if you popped into iTunes and just scroll down to the bottom, click 5 stars, of course, and leave me a review, that really helps our ratings. And to make sure you get every episode in your inbox on a Wednesday as it's released, remember to click subscribe. Thank you so much for your support. Tune in again next week for the latest episode.